We're so fortunate to have Gary with us and her expertise. But before we started with her presentation, I wanted to tell you a little bit about my genealogy journey, never ending and ever sucking me in down that rabbit hole, but it's very exciting. And I'm going to share my screen and show you a few things and tell you a little bit about my story. So I've always loved photographs, and as a child I would love going through my grandmother's photo albums, and I would stare at the photos for hours and hours on end and just wonder who these people are and what they were like. And when my grandmothers passed away, I was given some of their photo albums. And I want to show you a few of the photos that were kind of springboards to me exploring my family history and piecing together my family tree. Here's a photo of my three-time great-grandfather. It says on the bottom, my grandmother's great-grandfather. And this is my second great-grandmother. It was my grandmother's grandmother. And this is my great-grandmother. And old pictures from the 1890s. And this is more recent. This was from the 1918. And then back in 1998, I was given a family history story and a handwritten family tree. And the family lore dates back to about 1765. And it stated that anyone in the world that shares my paternal grandmother's maiden name, which is Winsberg, is related to us. And I just began searching the internet for family members and reaching out via email to update the family tree and create an electronic version. But back then it was the infancy of the internet, and there were not so many historical records or emails, or finding people wasn't so easy. But when I did connect to people, they were really very helpful and interested in what the family history was and the treasures that I collected. So over the years, people have sent me a few family mementos, and I really treasure them, and I'll share a few of them with you. This was a photograph from a department store in New Orleans, and I love that it reflects the era and has the family name on the window. And then someone sent me a napkin from a Jewish deli in Frankfurt, Germany. And I had an uncle that was involved in prohibition, to say it kindly. And the person in Germany liked his story and named his restaurant after him. The props do reflect what he was involved in. And then my latest discovery was another restaurant that's also named after the family, a family name. And it's an Israeli restaurant. You can see the Israeli flag in the background, and hopefully one day I'll get to visit both of these establishments in Germany. And over the years, the resources on the internet have grown, and it's been quite a journey, and I've learned a lot, especially researching family that came to the United States. And this is just a list of some of the websites that I've used, and I'm sure Gary will talk about some of these and hopefully more. And if anybody would like this list, I'm happy to share it with anyone. And my plan moving forward is to learn about new resources that Gary can provide us with, and how to really utilize Jewish Gen to the fullest potential and unlock many answers I have about my family. I'm really excited about today's program, and we're so lucky to have Gary with us today to learn more tips on how to use different sites to gather more information on building our family trees. And with that, I'll pass it on to Jri.
Thank you so much, Julie. That's so interesting. You know, I have a Feinberg in my family too. We have to talk. We may
Oh, yeah.
we may
Okay.
really
Yeah.
be the
We
sisters
we
we always
will.
say we were.
Exactly.
Okay,
I have
so
Feinbergs as well.
oh, you too.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Let's put our
It's
heads
so
together.
funny. Yes. Anyway, I want to thank Gary Regev for doing this wonderful program for us. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about her background. Gary has lived in Israel since 1978 and has been doing genealogical research for over 20 years. She's taught seminars and courses in genealogy to a variety of adult groups, including Hadassah, Touro College, as well as seminars at the Central Zionist Archives, David Yellen College, Yad Vashem, and MyHeritage. She has lectured at 8 international Jewish genealogy conferences and at the Eva Minerva Conference. Gary currently volunteers at the Genealogy Center at the National Library of Israel, the Israel Museum, and the Central Zionist Archives. Gary was among the founding members of Israel Genealogy Research Association and served as its president for 4 years and is currently the immediate past president. Gary serves as vice president on the board of Litvak SIG. So you have a lot to offer and teach us about, and we're so thrilled to have you here. Thank you so much, Gary. Let's hear it.
Well, one of my main claims to fame is being the mother of Liron.
I didn't mention that. Liron is our culinary arts director, amazing person, amazing chef. Love having her here, and she always treats us.
What was it about? Like, what is it?
So yes, that is another claim to fame.
So good morning to everyone. I'm happy to be in the same time zone and able to speak with you when it's not nighttime for me in Israel, but I'm here in California at the moment, not with Liron. I'm up in the north with my son and his family. And I do a lot of genealogy. I would say if you take my day, some good chunk of every day is spent doing genealogy. I'm not going to plan on focusing on Israel during this current series of lectures, unless one of you tells me that you have relatives that went through Israel and you're interested in doing that kind of research. Jerry has said that we will collect some suggestions from you as to problems you've run into or things you'd like me to clarify so that I can talk about them at one of the next 2 meetings that we will have together. So for today, let's go and first check out the PowerPoint that I prepared, and then I'll go back and be happy to do some live demonstrations so that you'll be able to see.
I'm looking for who is not muted, and I can't find anybody. Oh, I see who it is. Okay. Okay. Everybody's muted.
So the title I gave for today is Where Do You Search for Your Relatives? And the first thing, if you're talking about roots that come from Eastern Europe, you'll want to go into Jewish Gen. Even if you don't know exactly where your relatives came from, I'll show you how to try to hone in and find those kinds of records. So jewishgen.org, and at the top you'll see that there is a request to log in. Logging in, registration is free. Logging in, it makes it so that they know who you are. You're given a researcher number, and that comes in handy when you are trying to communicate with other people who have also done research on Jewish Gen, and we'll see how that all works out. So the main menu of Jewish Gen is divided into more categories than you currently see, but you can search many of the records. You can learn about the different communities where our families lived, and you can try to explore and discover what life was like for them at the time. So now I have logged in. Before it just told me to log in. Now you see that my name is up here in the upper right-hand corner. Anyone who registers gets a limited amount of information. If you are willing to donate $100 a year, you get extra benefits, which means that you can add in more details as you are searching, and there are free classes that are available and other member benefits. So the first thing that I want to do is to go into the category that says databases. And I have available what's called the Unified Search. Then the Family Finder, the Jewish Gen Family Finder. Many people have donated their family trees, and you can find the ones that are connected to your family. You can also upload your own family tree, even if it's just an outline, a sketch of the main names. It will help other people see if they might be connected to you. I'm sorry, that's the family trees. That's the next one. The Family Finder is where you can put in a list of all the places that you believe your relatives came from, the people that you are looking for, the last names, the place that they came from, and see who else has people who have a similar last name and come from a similar place. The Town Finder, you put in the name that you know about, and it will tell you the different countries that that community currently is in, where it was during the different periods of time. And you may be able that way to locate the communities that your family said that they were from, or that you find in other kinds of records. There is a Holocaust database. There's something called the Burial Registry, which has, I think at this point, millions of tombstones from all around the world, and you may be able to find some of your relatives listed there. And then there is a complete list of all the databases if you don't want to go ahead with the Unified Search. So as I said, the first thing to do is to log in. And I wanted to go to the Unified Search. And this is what their menu looks like. So the surname is something that everybody who is logged in can access. You can choose to have it phonetically, which is the default, or if you click on the little arrow, it will give you some other options about sounds alike, or fuzzy, or other kinds of options to look for surnames that might be appropriate for your family. You put in the surname, and at the bottom you want to start the search. If you have paid $100, where it says under the surname, it says data type, you can open that up, and it allows you to put in the town or a first name. And then again, you'll have the options of how to focus on that particular name. And then you have a two-part search, which will focus in more on the records that you are looking for. So for instance, I just put in a last name, and the last name I chose was Applebaum. And there are close to 20,000 records, which is why it sometimes pays to put in another component, which will help to filter down and get you more records. Now, I'm not showing you the complete list. It's very, very long. The Unified Search brings you everything that Jewish Gen has in its holdings, which are growing by the day. And you can then look at the different possibilities and decide where it is you want to go ahead and look. For instance, I told you about the family tree of the Jewish people. So there are 3,598 people who have put in a family tree that has the name Applebaum. There are also 332 people who have this name that they are researching. So you have already a lot of possibilities to go in and see if you can get help from other people who are doing similar research. Now, if you knew that your family was from Vienna or Belarus or Hungary, you can see that there are records that may help you. Each of these categories where it gives the name of the database, you can click on it and it will give you information as to where the database is held, the kinds of information that is there, the years that it covers. If you're just interested in going in and looking, you go across to the other side where they will give you the list of the number of records that they say that they have. So there are records from really all over. I just took a small sampling of what is possible. There are many more from each of these different categories and many more that I didn't even get to put on. There's some special interest groups, SIGs, that have information. One of them is the Litvak SIG, which deals with Lithuania. Another is Jri Poland. And then there's Gesher Galicia, which each of these deals with a specific country, and they are connected to Jewish Gen, but they are separate entities. So the Jri Poland has a lot more regions that they deal with. I just took out a couple so that you could see how many records they have for this particular name. And also Gesher Galicia has many, many more records that are available. Here is the page that gives you the list of countries that are currently connected, that they have records available. And you can see if one of those might be a country where you believe you had relatives. Please remember that borders changed, and these are talking about the current country, and you may need to check in more than one in order to find records that will be good for your family. The finding of the community will also give you clues as to where you could look for those records. There's also a general search entity, which we've gone through already. There's also tier, of course, the Holocaust database, the burial registry we spoke about. There's also something about that's called the Memorial Plaques database. We are beginning to index the, in synagogues, they sometimes have memorial plaques that were put up for different people, and we are beginning to show that kind of information as well. There is a section here about Ellis Island and the records that can be found at the Family History Library. We'll get to that in more detail as well. There is a possibility of signing up for the Jewish Gen discussion group and looking back at the archived messages. People ask a lot of questions, and there are others within the community who write back and give answers. So sometimes if you have a question, it's good to look through and do a search and see if someone has already asked that kind of a question and what answer they have received. And if you don't find the answer that you're looking for, you can certainly write in your own question and have the community of Jewish genealogists try to help you find the answer you're looking for. There's lots and lots to do on Jewish Gen. You could spend quite a lot of time here. But we're going to move on, and I'm going to show you some other possibilities that will also give you information and what are the strengths of each of them. Ancestry.com has some information that's free, not a lot. They do offer a 14-day free trial. With any of these trials, they ask for a credit card up front. So you have to be sure to mark on your calendar when to call in and say, I need to stop it, and before they go ahead and charge you full price for the next 6 months or a year. You can get quite a lot of information if you go in and are ready to do your research. You should have a list of family names, an idea of where they may have lived, and then my suggestion is to bring yourself a large jug of coffee and just get going. Download anything and everything that looks like it is your family, and worry about putting it into your family database later on. This is a time for gathering of information, and you won't be sorry if you go ahead and do it. The records that they specialize in are records that deal with North America. There are records from other parts of the world, and I don't want to belittle that fact, but the main bulk of records that are available on Ancestry are the records that may have references to the Army, to naturalizations, to ship manifests, to census records, both statewide and countrywide censuses. And coming up next April 2nd, we're going to have the release of the 1950 census records, and there's going to be a big rush to access these records, and everyone's going to be updating their family trees with the information of where their families lived in 1950 and the information that's available on those census records. They're kept private for 70 years, so it completed that in April, and then there's another 2 years before they're allowed to be released, during which time the companies Ancestry and MyHeritage FamilySearch are busy doing their work to digitize and index all of the information. The search page of Ancestry looks about like this. You can search through their records. You can go ahead and search through the various family trees. You can go into the search section and get to the card catalog and go into one specific database instead of just picking up their suggestions of what might be what you're looking for. Of course, DNA is now a big part of the searches for some people. They're starting to do a little bit about health as well, but it's not as well developed. They also have a great help section with a lot of articles that you could read. MyHeritage, they also have a free trial. Again, same thing, you're going to have to give a credit card and remember to go back in. You can go ahead and put your family tree there. The first 250 names that you put in a family tree on MyHeritage is free. However, getting the information about their special matches does require a subscription. MyHeritage also has some really new fancy tools to deal with those old photographs like Julie was showing us, and you can colorize black and white photos. You can do some fine tuning to the pictures and make them look a lot better. You can actually animate some of the pictures and see your relatives almost lifelike. A lot of those are, however, for people who are paid subscription members to MyHeritage. MyHeritage also has a group of records that are from outside of the United States, and they do have a lot that deal with the United States itself. It's a little bit different than in MyHeritage, in Ancestry. And you can see that they have a different format for looking for the information. When they ask you here for first name, last name, year of birth, and place, any place that your relative lived will help to focus in on details that are connected to that family member. A year of birth, if you make a guesstimate, once you put in the year, it'll give you a range that you can choose. And the more details you can put in about your relative, the more likely you are to focus in on things that are related to them. Many people have submitted trees to MyHeritage, and so you may be able to find others who have put together family trees that are available to you once you click in your relative's family information. A disclaimer: on any program, whether it's MyHeritage or Genie or Ancestry or anywhere else, be very careful about accepting the information that others have put up. They may not be as accurate as one would like. They may not have documented all of their information. So you need to double check and be careful about the information that people are giving. And you want to be sure to privatize your tree so that you are as comfortable as you can be about others not stealing the information that you put up or adopting your family tree without your permission. FamilySearch is another big repository of information. And FamilySearch is run by the Mormons. The Mormons went out through Europe and went to the various archives and were able to digitize a lot of the holdings that are there. They've also done that within the United States. They have collections of records that are not available at other data of the genealogy websites. And they allow you to go in and build a tree. I don't know if you would like to do that on their platform. Creating a free account is absolutely a good thing to do. And they allow you to sign in and be signed in for 2 weeks. Just lets them know who you are. Nothing wrong with that. They do have a lot of information that is not available on other sites. And when I'm doing my research, I go between the 3 biggies, between Ancestry, MyHeritage, and FamilySearch, looking for the specific information that I would like to find. They allow you to look under their search for records, images, family trees, genealogies, a catalog, books, and the research wiki is information that you may find useful in figuring out how to go about your genealogy work. The catalog will give you an idea of the places in Europe and Eastern Europe, or wherever your family may be from, the kinds of information that they have available and whether it's already digitized or not. If you have a family library, family history library that is near you, you may want to connect to them because some of their information is only available to see. Some of the census records or birth and death records are only able to be seen if you're sitting on their computer. They have special hours for people to come in if they're reopened already, and more of their information is available on the internet. As I understand it, the big library in Salt Lake City has not reopened yet. So their platform brings you a map of the world. You click on the area you're interested in researching, and then you can go ahead and find what information they have. I wait to put in my family names until I am within the particular area that I'm researching, whether it be the state of Rhode Island or the state of New York. And I sometimes even wait until I get to the specific database that I'm interested in and only put in my family information when I get there so that I don't get too wide of a set of search results. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing that for now. And now we're going to go live. So I'm going to go
So
in.
are we taking questions in the chat or
Yeah,
live?
we can take some questions now, and then I'll go back in and do some live searches so that you can see how each of those sites actually works.
Okay, so if you can raise your hand and we'll you can unmute yourself, or just wave like this, and we'll unmute you. Give you time to gather your thoughts. Let me see. We do, people were asking. Most of our programs are on our on-demand section of our website. So this will be going up within the next few days, I believe. And we also have a prior talk that Gary gave here that is already on demand, I believe. So if you want to go back and refer to things that
The prior ones are not on demand yet. Sorry,
They're
Jerry.
not?
The prior ones
Oh.
are not on demand yet, but they will be by the end of the week.
Oh, okay.
So there were 3 lectures that happened in the first course. One was about getting started, how you collect materials, what materials you want, and getting ready to put the information into a family tree. Another one was dealing with Holocaust research. And the third was a general idea of where it was a live demonstration. So there were some different kinds of things that were going on there.
And we're also going to do 3 here. So when you start doing your research and you come back for the second talk, which will be on July 6th at 10 o'clock, and you'll all get a link to that, you can start coming up with the roadblocks and difficulties, and then Gary can help you with that. And the final meeting will be on August 24th, and we'll be meeting in person to go over your findings. So this kind of gives you the summer to work on this, and we hope you'll be very successful in charting. I'm getting inspired right now to look up my family, which I was never that interested in doing, but this kind of excites me, especially since I found out I have a relative with the same last name as Julie Sherman, and probably many others. So let's see if there's any questions. Oh, there's another person. Anna Livitz has a Feinberg family too. What do you know? That's cute. Let's see.
I just want to add, over COVID, I did a lot of research and I came across documents that were in the Mormon library, and I didn't have, the libraries were closed, and I reached out to the local library, and the librarian was really helpful, and she gave me the Wi-Fi login and password, and I would sit in the parking lot and just download documents. So if you make a I don't know if they're opened up again, but if you make a connection to the local libraries, they're really a wealth of information and documents that you don't have access to anywhere else.
So I'm looking through to see, I don't have the full gallery on because of the PowerPoint. Do we want to take off the PowerPoint?
Let me go through and do some more explicit things about Jewish Gen, okay, and see how we can move along with that. Okay.
I just want to tell you, we do have one hand raised. Should we get to that first?
Sure.
It's Harriet, but I can't see you, Harriet, to unmute you. Let me see if I can find you. Harriet. Yeah, I don't see you, Harriet. Can you unmute yourself?
Hello.
There you are. Okay. Hi, Harriet. So what's your question?
Okay, I don't have a question. I have something I wanted to share with everyone directly on this subject. I have done over the past few years very extensive genealogy work for my family who comes from Poland. And I used initially, there is a Jewish Genealogy and Family Heritage Center in Warsaw, Poland. It's connected to the Poland Museum of Jewish History. And it's called the Emanuel Ringenblum Jewish Historical Institute, Jewish Genealogy and Family Heritage Center. And she was able to find, I mean, I can give the information or write down on the chat the exact name of it. It was amazing the things that she found of my family. She found ship manifests. She found marriage records, death records, divorce records, birth records. And I ended up finding through this another entire branch of my family that we never knew existed, and then a third branch. We used Ancestry and we found this third branch, all people here in America that came to the United States. And so it's an amazing resource. You have to give a donation. They don't, in order to get them, and you give whatever you want, and they will do the research for you. They're very professional genealogists.
Had you tried using Jri Poland?
No, at that time I hadn't, no.
Yeah, so the records are probably available there as well.
Okay.
Okay, I see there were two other questions.
Yes. Let me find that again. Jri.
Yes. Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
On that Jri Poland, what was the website connection? And then I'll ask my question.
Oh,
That-
there's a museum in archive and museum in Warsaw that also has a lot of genealogy records. Most of them are on Jri Poland, but they do have researchers available who can do a little more research if you need it.
Thank you. But my question is, if will it help me get information for before the 1800s? My daughter's already researched our family up to that point, and we're trying to take it back even further.
Well, one of the big problems before that is that there were no family names.
Right.
And the family names were only began as a practice, actually began as law, in the early 1800s, anywhere from 1806 up until the 1850s, depending on the area that you were living in. There was the request or the demand for people to take on a family name. So up until then, there were no family names, and everyone was known by a patronymic, which is their first name, son of, and their father's first name. So going back further is a challenge. Sometimes you can't be really, really sure that you found your family unless you know the specific town and you know the names of the people as they went back. So there is the possibility, but it becomes more and more difficult as you try to go back further in time.
Thank you. I have one easy question probably. Is there a free or an easy way to get copies of birth certificates? I don't need a copy of it. I actually need the info. I'm trying to identify my real grandfather, who I do not know if he's died. So I figure I could put in my mom's name and date of birth and my grandma's
From
name.
where?
This would all be in Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay, so each of the states has different rules and regulations. For that, your best choice is to go to FamilySearch and go to the state and see what information they have as far as births are concerned. And they will tell you what years they have available. There's a privacy laws, so not everything is available, but you may already be able to have the information. If it is available, best place to look for that is on FamilySearch.
And is there a fee for FamilySearch?
No.
Okay, great. It's even better. All right, thank you very much.
And it looks like there's one more. Lisa, would you unmute yourself?
Yes, I had asked, you mentioned that you had a course 1, a course 2, a course 3. Where were those and when were they conducted, or how are we able to get any access to that? Because I had basically a person who didn't know her father's name before he came to America. And the one that you specifically did on the Holocaust, I think would be very helpful for her. But that's my question. Where were 1, where were 2, where were 3? How is access available?
Well, I can go into access because Lerone just let me know we did record it, but it hasn't been uploaded onto our on-demand programs. So I can let you know when it is there, and then you'll be able to access it.
Okay. But the first, the second, and the third, that would be really
Yeah.
helpful.
And Gary, do you have any comments about that?
No, they will go back up for a short period of time, and then at least one of them can't stay up because it has my personal family information on it. The other 2 might be able to stay up longer, but you'll certainly have enough time to be able to look at them again.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's dive into Jewish Gen. Jewish Gen, I'm going to take the first possibility, and that is to discover an ancestral town. So I click on that, and maybe it'll let me in, maybe not. Let's try again. Come on, internet, do your thing. Ah, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to put in a Jewish community, and I will try for Vilna. And I want to start the search. And it tells me now that the name of the community is not Vilna now. It's called Vilnius. They do give me all of the names that it was called and in which languages: Lithuanian, Russian, Polish, Yiddish, you name it, it's there. Now, when our relatives came over, the ship manifests have usually the name of the place that their family was from. So that's a good place to start if you don't know where your family was from. It may be listed on the ship manifest or on the naturalization papers. And you can see that it was spelled in a lot of different ways. Now, in addition to being the name of a city, it's also the name of what's called a gubernia, a larger geographic area like a county. And sometimes if you like from my family was from Kovna, except that's also not the city itself, but it's the outlying area, and I have no idea which small community there's from yet. Now, the information here is telling us that there are 8,000 people who are looking for this particular community as part of their family. Before 1900, this was in the Russian Empire. Between the wars and up to about 1930, 1940, it was in Poland. And then it moved to the Soviet Union. And now it's in Lithuania. So you can see that your searches need to be in different areas in order to find the information depending on the time. Now, if I click here on this little icon, it's going to open up another page, which will give me information about where else I can get details about this area. Books that I can turn to, Yisker books, other information that comes about that particular geographic area. And then I get a map that I can either have the MapQuest map, or I can go ahead and change it to a Google map. I can go out and be able to see the suburbs, or I can see where it is in relation to other places. Like here's Kaunas and there's Vilnius. The other major cities are also able to be seen. And on the right-hand side, you'll see all of the nearby communities. Now that's important because you may find that your relatives, your grandparents came from 2 different villages, and you can see how close they were or how far away they were, and how they managed to get together even though they weren't living in the same community itself. At the bottom, there's more information that is available, and there is a virtual shtetl that you can see, and there's information on Litvak Sig as well. So you can go back and you can find more information on any Jewish community that you would like. Now, if I go back to the unified search, and just to use the name that I chose before, which has no relation to my own family. As I said, if I wanted to go in and I wanted to put in another kind of data, because I'm logged in as myself and I have given them $100 for the year, I can add in a given name, a town, or any other kind of a field. So let's put in a name and search. And now, instead of the 19,000 names that I had earlier, now I have 800. So if I want to see what they have as far as the family finder, they will show me all of the people who are looking for the name Applebaum, and they tell me which place they believe their relatives were living. And if it has that little symbol next to it, you can open it up and see the community and where it's located. People will give you either their contact information, full address, or they will have a link which opens up a box. You can type in your message and include in it your personal family email so that they can send back to you. You can start communicating by email and see whether you can find how the families are perhaps connected. Okay, so there are lots of different people. They also tell you when was the last time these people logged in. So you may find that they're here, this person was in April, so that's really recently. This person logged in before 2004. So the question is that person still with us and able to get back to you? So you can look through all of the people who gave information and are looking for that particular family name. Now, if I go to the Jewish family tree of the Jewish people, there are 58 records. And here I see the different family trees that people have donated. They give me some more information here so I can find out whether this is really the person that the family that I'm interested in seeing. And once you click on it, we'll just take any one of these to see what the story is. And each time it'll open a new window so you don't lose the search that you were doing. This allows you to click to see information and contact the person who put this tree in. And you'll see that there are 2 different colors, one for the females and one for the males. And it gives you the information, just birth and death information, so that you can trace the family back further. And it moves around, so you can click and move it around. Okay, now let's go back to our searches. And we have information from Vienna, from the UK, from Hungary, internal passports, a lot from Poland, from Gesher Galicia. So let me just try a couple of things here. Okay, so if you click on this and you see the Lithuania internal passports, it's giving me two different families. They give me some basic information about the person. She's Fega is a widow. Her relationship, she's the mother of Asher. Tells you where they were living, the place of birth, the occupation of her husband. And then you have LCVA and a bunch of numbers. This is what is necessary in order to see that internal passport application, which may have additional information and it may have a picture. So you would want to contact the archive that is mentioned here, the LCVA, and you can find that information on Litvak SIG, gives you all of the details of how to access that particular archive. You give them the entire string and ask them if you could have a copy. There's a cost for getting the copy to you, but whatever it is, you're probably going to be very happy to go ahead and pay for it. Okay, now let's go and see some of the other record sources. These are the burial registries, so there are different cities, different countries that the tombstones might be. Let's see if we can follow through and find one that might have a full burial record. This one does not have a picture. Some of them do, but here it says there's no image available. Okay, let's go down to Jri Poland. So I see that there are many different areas that might be a good area to look for these family records, and we'll just choose one of them, Lvov. And they go through and they give you the records, and it's a listing alphabetically of the places. And here they tell you that this particular section that you're looking at has to deal with births from 1863 to 76, and then it jumps to 1900 and to 1901. Those are the records that exist for that particular community. Now here, they've gone ahead, and I understand this is upgraded. Let's see what happens. Here we have a search that gives me the name of the father, the name of the mother. I can tell that it's a birth because it has a B. If it had an M, it would be for marriage, a D for death. So we have two children who are being born. The parents are different parents, so these are two different families. And then remember, I had asked for Abraham Applebaum, and each of these is an Abraham. Here's Abraham Applebaum, and this one is Abraham up here and Applebaum down here. So let's go and look here and see what the image says. So now, without having to go through the archives or without having to ask for anyone else to download information, you have the original right here and available to you to look at and to see. You may need somebody who can translate it for you, but the record book is here. You can look through it. You can understand some of it. The names are certainly in Latin script. So here's Abraham Isaac. That was Jacob. There are some other Chaya Fega. There are some that are more difficult to understand. The headings at the top, you can have somebody help you and understand what they all, this is the mother. Her name is Esther. So there's ways of getting to the information and seeing what the record actually is. Okay, let's go and see for Gesher Galicia. We'll look for marriage records this time. This brings me to the Gesher Galicia page. They put in already the surname and the first name. And they want me to search. And now they're showing me that of the marriage records, and I can tell it's marriage because they have the rings. If it was birth, then there would be a little baby. If there was death, there would be a tombstone. Now, on any of these, I can click and more information becomes available if this is the one you're interested in looking at. This groom was a widower. They give you the bride's date of birth, the town she was from, the fact that she had been single, and it tells you exactly where the record came from. So if you are lucky enough to find the pieces of information, you could actually get quite a bit of data. So this is all from a search on Jewish Gen, and each of the different searches will bring you different kinds of information. Oh, so here's the information. I clicked on the name of the database so that you can see that it describes to you that this were census records from 1870 to 1900, how many records there are altogether, and how the information is organized. If I go across then to see where that is, I remember which one I just had, census records, there we go. It had 4 records available. Here they give all of the family members who are living in one household, and they give you the dates of birth on this particular set, their connection to the head of the family, and sometimes these are all, this is 1870, 1880, you may find the same family mentioned twice. Here you go. It's the same family. You'll see the difference in when they were born. For instance, here, they say the wife was born in 1832. 10 years earlier, they said she was born in 1834. Everything is relative. So you take things and you have to be a little bit flexible in the acceptance of the information that you find. Anybody have any questions about what we've done so far on Jewish Gen? Now is a good time to open your microphone and ask.
May I ask you something?
Sure.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, I have a good, yes, you gave a good information. Thank you. Let's have a question. I am from former Soviet Union, and the Republic is Azerbaijan. If I need to just find family members or just more information, which platform should I use? This Jewish genealogy, or which one is better?
Are you able to read Russian?
What is it?
Are you able to read the Russian?
Yes, of course.
In that
Yeah.
case, there are several databases that are only in Russian that you can access. I wish I could. So you have things that are available to you that are not through Jewish Gen yet, but there are different. Let me take you to one place where I can show you research, the research divisions. So they do have some research divisions. They have for the Ukraine, they have Bessarabia, Belarus. They have some other areas, and you would want to go and see what they have and to be in touch with them about databases that they may know about that are still in Russian that you can access, because I know there is information that is becoming available now. That's one of the last areas that we are still trying desperately to gain access and to get records.
You know, my daughter, she made a lot of job, but really, she just went to my heritage and we found a lot of family members all over, about 500 family members. She did it. She made just all this with this platform, but I needed to find my my parents' family marriage license and death license. I shouldn't find it there.
Most likely, you're just going to find a reference, a line in a book. It's not going to be any actual document, no single page documents. It'll just be a line like I showed you in that birth book that would just give you that basic piece of information. They didn't do certificates for people. And sometimes the information got to the community that was keeping the records half a year later, a year later, depending on the weather, on how long of a walk it was to get from one place to another. And so sometimes people put in the date that the record was placed and not the date that the event occurred. There's a lot of flexibility here.
Yeah, thank you.
A lot of challenges.
Yeah, it's a lot of challenges. It was such a long time work, and maybe it took her 3 or 4 months to put everything together.
Yeah, and due to wars and floods and fires, and
yeah,
we don't have complete record sets for many, many locations, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. Thank you.
How are we doing on time, Jerry? You're muted.
My phone was ringing, so I muted myself. It's 11, so we're actually at the end of our time. I was going to say if there's one more question somebody would like to ask, and that otherwise we'll what I'd like you to do is on your search, if you run into some roadblocks or have some questions, you can send it to me and I'll collect them and then send them to Gary. And then for the next get together we have, which will be on July 6th, we'll be able to work on some of those and answer some of those. Is that correct, Gary? Will that work for you?
Yes, and we do have a topic though for that session as well. I don't have it right next to me, but I will incorporate as much information as I can to people, and I may get back to you privately. Please though, get it to me by the end of June in order to be able to prepare properly.
Thank you so much for all the work you're doing.